We are now live. Okay, brilliant. Well, a delayed welcome to this EduGeek webinar. My name is James Leonard from the Google for Education team, and we have with us Will Smith from Neverware.
Hi, everyone.
For the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So appreciate all of you guys for joining. This will also be recorded and posted to the EduGeek website as well. So here we go. To start things off, if you are able to open this collaborative document, short link bit.ly /2 MYSEQ, and then this is case sensitive, so uppercase E. This will be a collaborative doc that we'll use throughout the course of the presentation. Maybe what we can do is if someone can also paste that into the Google Meet, that would be really helpful as well. And get that right into the Google Meet as well. Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of intros. So I'll introduce myself. My name is James Leonard from the Google for Education team, lead our sales efforts within the UK and Ireland. And we have with us Will Smith from Neverware.
Hi, everyone. I lead up the European operations for Neverware for EMEA.
Brilliant. And again, if you have just joined, if you could just mute your Meet, that would be fantastic. So what we're going to cover off are some introductions. Will's going to take us through an overview of CloudReady. We'll then talk about Chrome first, which is the couple of deployment methodologies for using Chrome OS, whether that be Chromebooks or Neverware in a multi-platform environment. And then we'll open up this discussion doc. So just for you guys, if you haven't yet done it, this is the bit.ly link. It will bring you into this collaborative doc. I see we already have a number of people in it. And throughout the course of the meeting, you can also ask questions on this right-hand side here, this chat. We'll be sure to cover those off as well. And then also in that collaborative doc. But for now, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Will. And Will's going to lead us through an overview of Neverware and some of the new announcements that we have in terms of licensing for schools, specifically in the UK. So Will, over to you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to start off the presentation with a brief overview about Neverware and our products, just in case there are people that don't know what we do and the product that we make. I think most people on this probably have a good idea of what we're doing. We've gone from zero to quite something in the last 18 months since we last did our webinar in EduGeek, I think back in April last year. So for those that you don't know, Neverware is a company that was founded in 2011, and it's now been backed by Google as a partner investor back in 2017. Our core product is a product called CloudReady, and that product is designed to take devices that you've got. They can be Windows laptops, desktops, Macs, signage devices, all sorts of things that are running on standard kind of PC hardware, and convert them into Chromebooks. That's really what we're trying to do. We've got a head office based out of New York, and we've got a digital office based out of London. So you've got myself there, and you've also got Antonio, who I'm sure many of you know as well. Next slide. So product is a product called CloudReady. Basically, it's based on the same open source project that Google Chrome OS is. So you've got the big blue icon on the left-hand side. That's the Chromium icon. Google takes that open source project where they do all their work and forks it out into Chrome OS. Loads of other people put work into that open source project, ranging from people that you've heard of across the industry, across the PC manufacturing industry, mobile devices, all that. It all goes into the open source project. We take that same code base and fork it out into a product called CloudReady. So what we're doing really at our core is basing our operating system on the same core of Chrome OS. We're not trying to make something that looks and feels like Chrome OS. We're really pulling from the same core that makes up that great operating system, Chrome OS, which gives people the speed, simplicity, and security that people are looking for when they're using managed devices. Cool. So a few of the common challenges that we see people having, it's the standard ones around, I've got devices that they're not really used, they're not utilized because the teachers have lost confidence in them, people aren't happy with using them anymore, they're old and slow, they take up too much of the lesson, so people just don't use them anymore. That's a common one people come to us with, which we think we can really fix. We're looking to get more life out of our existing kit. They've got devices. It might be working okay, but they know that they can move to a newer operating system, more modern operating system, that will allow them to get another 3 or 4 years maybe out of these devices, that will allow them to really stretch their budget. The other one is Windows 7. So Windows 7 obviously is end of lifing in January. It's coming up pretty shortish. And we know there's a lot of devices out there still. I talk to people, some people tell me there's nothing left in the school, and then you talk to someone else and they tell you there's definitely Windows 7 machines there. There's a lot of data out there. I think it ranges, depending on who you talk to and which reports you look at, ranges all the way from 30 to maybe 45% of PCs out there are still running Windows 7, which is a crazy amount of devices that need to get switched over before that January deadline. So it's a great way to move to a more modern OS without having to kind of give up the stuff that you've already got, because CloudReady works on devices up to about 13 years old. So these devices are more than modern enough to run CloudReady effectively. And then the other one that we've seen as a real positive since we launched in the UK around 18 months ago is the users that are looking to experiment with Chrome. They might have not decided to really move towards it wholeheartedly in their school yet, but they know it's something they want to give a go, give a try. So CloudReady is a really great way to do that, because there's no risk. You can trial our products completely for free. There's no cost to try. We won't charge you if you don't cancel in time on the trial. There's none of that type of sales tactics. It's give it a go. We'll give you a free trial. If it doesn't work for you, then the trial licenses will just expire, and you can do something else. But we often see people go forward and then look to kind of continue with the devices once they've given them a go. And then they can always switch back. They can always switch the devices back if it's not for them. But that's not often what we see. And then the other one as well is G Suite and Google is something that's really prevalent in schools now. We've seen a massive amount of people that come to us, and we always ask, how did you hear about Chromebooks? How did you hear about CloudReady? What made you kind of want to move towards this new modern OS? And one of the biggest answers we hear is Classroom. How great Classroom is, and teachers pushing for more use of Classroom in the school. So it's a great way of taking those devices that you've got, the PCs and Macs, and maximizing the value by getting them into as many classrooms and into as many students' hands as possible, and teachers' hands as well. Giving the teachers a reliable machine is also really valuable. And the other one is people that love Chromebooks already. They've got Chromebooks, great, they're really happy with them. But then they've also got some devices. They've also got the devices they had before they had Chromebooks, and it's, what do you do with those? If you haven't got the budget to replace those as well, it's a great way to do it either on a longer term or a short term basis, to make sure that as much of your school is running on the same operating system, because obviously you can manage them in exactly the same way as Chromebooks. You don't have to worry about having 2 different management consoles and 2 different sets of policies. That's not the case when you're running Chromebooks and CloudReady. It's the same experience. So as I just mentioned, obviously, Chrome device management is really important. The idea is that you can manage CloudReady exactly like a Chromebook. Use the same management licenses, use the same user and device policies, and you enroll it the same way you enroll a Chromebook. Control-Alt-E on the keyboard, type in your domain, and away you go. That's all you have to do. It allows you a great way of unifying the management. You don't have to have your Windows devices managed by one piece of software, your Mac devices managed by one piece of software, and your Chromebooks managed by one piece of software. You can unify them all under the same great Google admin console. And yeah, a little bit of, now that we've gone through all the kind of like the intro bits, a little bit of updates on kind of what's new. So we've now set in stone our kind of device support policies. So we've ended our 32-bit support. It's happening to a lot of Linux distributions. The oldest original 32-bit Chromebooks as well that are kind of end of lifing now. And that's allowed us to really kind of look to the future and see where we want to be with our main 64-bit OS. And that has allowed us to set our end of life policy at 13 years, which we think is a really, really great piece of life. And what we're going to do is, once you've got a certified machine that's reached 13 years of life, you can continue to receive updates. But basically what we're saying after that point is you should probably look at a new device after 13 years. However, we won't stop the updates. You can continue to use it. We just won't guarantee support. And then the other one is expanded model certification. So something that we're always looking to do is improve the compatibility list. So when we first started, I think when we did this webinar 18 months or so, it was about 240, 250 devices. We're up to now about 390. So yeah, we're always improving this, always adding more devices in, more form factors in. It's really quite nice. One of the most popular devices that we've seen out there is a very UK-centric device that we didn't really see in the US, which is our previous largest market, was the Toshiba R50B. We've got a lot of schools using those. And that's now on our certified model list, so people can be really comfortable that will work great. And then we've also added some more deployment features. One specific to CloudReady, which is mandatory enrollment, which is a great feature that allows larger deployments. The ability to basically block a device from being used until it's enrolled. So you'll boot up a device, sometimes obviously be it a Chromebook or a CloudReady device. You'll boot it up, and then you'll try and log in. Someone will try and log in with a personal Gmail, and then you'll have to power wash it, or you have to reinstall CloudReady. What mandatory enrollment does is, when the device boots up, it says, "Please enroll into this domain," and then you have to go through the standard enrollment features that you would do on a Chromebook or a CloudReady machine. So it just stops that kind of potential hurdle when trying to do a large rollout. And then the other two are cached updates and peer-to-peer updates. So these are features that's applicable to Chromebooks as well. Caching updates on local servers is a great way of bandwidth-strapped schools, and peer-to-peer updates is a great way to kind of as well. When you've got some limits on your bandwidth, you can kind of use devices. Once one updated, it will then peer-to-peer that update to other devices on that network. So help spread that out a bit, spread the bandwidth out. And yeah, the big one. So we're really happy to announce a bundle offer available to schools in the UK. So it's now £15 per annum, and that includes both your CloudReady license and your Chrome Education Upgrade license. Previously, CloudReady retailed for around £10 last year, as I'm sure you know. So we think this is a really powerful new product that allows schools to get on board. It used to be around an RRP of almost £30 to get up and running in the first year, and now it's down to 15. Which will really, we think, accelerate schools' ability to kind of push forward. We have budgets that are being stretched all the time, and we think this will be a great help. And what you get in that, obviously, you get full compatibility with the Google Admin Console. You get email and phone support from both our teams in New York and in London, and you'll also get all the security and feature updates from CloudReady alongside the updates that you'll get in your Chromebooks, so you can run them in the same way.
Brilliant. And that offer is currently available through every Google for Education partner in the UK who can sell Chromebooks. So brilliant. Thank you, Will. I'm going to go ahead and just allow a couple more people into the meeting really quick. And just pause and see if there are any questions for Will before we get going. So let me just hop over here to this question and answer doc. Will, you want to take one of these?
Yeah, I'll respond to these in text afterwards as well. But what I'll say about the first question, Windows 7 and Windows 10 are the same minimum system requirements. Why should we choose CloudReady over Windows 10? I think the proof's in the pudding. Put CloudReady on a machine that is capable of running Windows 10. You'll see vastly improved boot up times, vastly improved RAM management. One of the things that I always see is schools when they've got these new Chromebooks and they've got the kind of Windows 10 cloud books. You compare the performance on them. It's one is obviously quicker. We've recently had a lot of devices come to us that are these kind of 32 gigabyte hard drive cloud books, as they've been called, which are basically Chromebooks, but they're just running Windows 10. There's obviously some technical differences, but the core kind of processor is the same, and it runs great with Chrome OS. It runs great with CloudReady. However, schools are not happy with the performance of it when it's running Windows 10. Boot up time is in 5 minutes, and this is for a device that might only be a year old. It's crazy. So yeah, I'd say minimum system requirements is very different to the actual user experience. And then do you have a tool that can be run on the device to establish whether it will run Neverware? No, I'd say what the best way to do to establish that is to contact your partner, your Google partner, or contact us directly, and we can advise the partner as well. We'll take a look at the specs and give you an idea. If it's an Intel-based device from the last 10, 12 years, the likelihood that it's going to work is very, very high. But we can't guarantee anything that's not on our certified models list, so we always do want to check.
Brilliant. So I'll just quickly buzz over and see if there's any questions on the chat. And maybe what we'll do, it looks like Abid's and Aaron have been chatting there. So that's fine. We'll go back to the chat later. If you have any other questions, please just toss them in the doc and we'll get to them. So let me just double check. I'm good to go here, presenting. All right, back to the second half of our presentation. Will, one more thing just for you. I'm realizing I neglected this final slide. So once it loads up, I'll toss it back over to you and then I'll take over.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, obviously you've got the great bundle offer, but if you are a TrustNet school, so part of the LGFL network or the TrustNet network, you can get the CloudReady and the Chrome Education upgrade for free for your school. So just reach out to us at go.neverware.com/LGFL and you can redeem your licenses there.
Perfect. Great. So now that we've covered off a bit on the Neverware side, I wanted to share something that we're seeing more often on just the general Chrome OS and CloudReady side, which is something that we call Chrome First, which is using Chrome OS as a device platform into your productivity platform of choice, whether that's G Suite, Office 365, or a little bit of both. So I want to cover off the two main deployment methodologies that we see and then open it up for questions. Some of these core features we've touched on already. We know that Chromebooks are affordable, versatile, impactful. They come in many a form factor, whether that's a Neverware device, whether that's a browser, right, or a Chrome box, a Chrome base, or even a Chrome tablet. And what we're currently hearing from UK schools match a lot of what Will outlined earlier, is that as more and more devices enter into the ICT provision, schools and managed service providers can't necessarily staff up on exponential technical frontline support. So devices that go out of the door and are used in classrooms need to actually reduce the amount of technical frontline support. Second is that we know that schools in many cases don't necessarily have a sustainable refresh cycle, or they may not be able to refresh their devices every three years or so. So they need cost-effective, sustainable solutions, ensuring that the devices, the solution, or the decisions made today will take advantage of the web and opportunities of tomorrow. We also know that schools need confidence that the solution will just work, no matter the learning platform. And finally, that many educational software items and pieces have already moved to the cloud, whether that be core productivity tools, creativity tools, or learning resources. Devices, therefore, need to be web-centric. So Chrome First, what is Chrome First? Well, we usually think of G Suite and Chromebooks together, but in the Chrome First model, we think of Chrome First. Very simple. Chrome First is a flexible, scalable entry point to your productivity platform of choice. It can reduce overhead and drive cost savings compared to traditional operating modules of devices. And there's minimal change management required because many people know how to use a Chrome browser, and there's not necessarily a change in productivity platform. So a Chrome First deployment model can be two things, actually three things. It can deliver a learning platform of choice, whether that's Office 365 or Google or a blend of both. It can give IT teams back time and money. Obviously, the devices themselves are more affordable, and there are proof points around the percentage of time and reduction in troubleshooting and security issues in the Chrome OS platform. And learners and teachers can benefit from the core offerings of Chrome OS, which is fast boot off time, no viruses, updates automatically in the background, and flexible access to all services. So there are two deployment options for Chrome First. The first one is to mirror your Microsoft identity into Google and hollow out the Google accounts. So basically turn off all the G Suite services. In this environment, users still log in with the same username and password credential that they're probably used to in a Microsoft Office 365 or even an Active Directory environment. And when they boot up, they are launched into your startup page of choice. So that could be a virtual learning environment, it could be Office 365, it could be a single sign-on platform. But there's still a Google account attached to that user. The second is in the Chrome first model is to actually just deploy kiosks that don't have any association with the user, that are customized for a particular launch page and set of bookmarks or a specific user experience, and have that first launch page load right on lid open. So in this case, there is not a user attached to the device. It is simply a kiosk. I wanted to go into the kiosk mode in a bit more detail. The advantage of the kiosk mode is that it doesn't necessarily take a big lift on the technical front in terms of moving users into Google. You can pretty much open up a Google admin console and set up a kiosk mode for devices without doing anything on the users or OU side of things. And as I mentioned, what this does is it enables you to launch a custom page that will boot right at sign-on. It does enable you to customize the user experience, so you can control login and logout timings, bookmarks, incognito mode, enforcing safe search, etc. And it will allow proactive IT management via all the reporting functions in the Chrome Management Console. Many of our partners are doing Chrome first deployments across the country, from Scotland down to multi-academy trusts in London. And many will know these two deployment methodologies, either deploying via kiosk mode or hollowing out Google accounts and turning Google services off. So I recommend working with a partner, authorized partner on this. Second way is, of course, to enroll the Chrome devices. In order for these policies to take effect, either in kiosk mode or in sort of the hollowed out G Suite mode, devices need to be enrolled. And if you are choosing a kiosk, you do what's called a managed guest or a public session, and you'd be able to customize that in the admin console. So multiple users can share the same device without the need to sign in. Because there will be a lot of conversations around operating systems and end of life, I just want to reiterate how we build Chromebooks with security in mind. So we use a principle called defense in depth, which means at multiple different layers, we have security provisions to ensure that the user and the device are both protected. Automatic updates ensure that the devices are up to date. There are actually two versions of the Chrome operating system on each Chromebook, and one operates for the user and one updates in the background. And when that background operating system has been updated, they switch. So software is always up to date. And admins can actually have granular control over their devices and what version of Chrome they're running on. Sandboxing is more of a user play for defense in depth. Each tab within Chrome OS and the Chrome browser is sandboxed so that potential threats cannot affect in one browser tab any other browser tabs or the system software itself. Verified boot ensures that every single time a Chromebook boots up, it checks itself against a valid version of the operating system. Data encryption ensures that when users do store information on the device, that those files and that data is encrypted. And recovery mode, that means that it's really easy to restore an operating system with a power wash or a wipe if you ever need to. So these core functionality, security is at the core really of how we build Chromebooks, and that security, of course, applies in a cloud-ready, a Chrome first, or kind of a pure Chromebook and G Suite status. So with that, we've kind of rounded out two things. We've talked about cloud-ready. We've talked about Chrome first. We've touched on a couple of questions. And what I'll do is I'll just stop presenting here, head back to the question document, and see if there's anything that Will and I can answer in these last couple of minutes of the webinar.
Very much enjoying the Monty Python references, but I don't know the answer.
Perfect. Well, so it looks like we have a couple of devices here. I can share my screen again in just a second and hop back over to the question doc. Maybe we can cover those off. So here we are. Let's see. All right. So it looks like 15 pounds per device per annum, say 50 devices. That's probably a pain point for many schools, especially primaries. I think they prefer perpetual license. So Will, do you want to touch on options for perpetual licensing? And I can touch on the Chrome side of things.
Yeah, we actually did used to have a perpetual license, but what we saw actually was schools preferred the annual one. We started with perpetual and then offered the annual alongside it, and we saw more and more schools actually pick up the annual as the preferred option. So we decided to kind of move to that model, and we think the only way to get this device, this bundle together at the price that we've managed to get it to is on this kind of annual basis. £15 in the first year is an incredibly cheap upfront cost to get up and running. In terms of bulk, there's obviously our site license that we continue to offer. So if it is a multi-academy trust or a large group of schools in some way, there's the site license, which is obviously 70 pence per student. But for most situations, it's probably going to be the bundle, which is the best route for the school.
And I'll just add there that purchasing a Chrome perpetual license is £19 per. So if you're purchasing multiple annual licenses for CloudReady plus a Chrome perpetual license, it adds up quite quickly. I think what we've seen is that yes, the best cost model ends up being this £15 per device per annum model. So Will, next question for you. Have previously tried CloudReady on ZooStorm Fizzbooks. That's a new one, I have to say, about 2 years ago. Any insight into the current status of ZooStorm Fizzbooks?
Yeah, it depends on the Fizzbook. There are some Fizzbooks that will not work. There's a specific Intel chip in some of them that doesn't have compatibility really with Windows 7, Windows 10, or CloudReady. Unfortunately, it's it only kind of worked with the initial kind of like Windows 8.1 that it came out with. But if it's got a different kind of standard Intel 64-bit chip in it, the likelihood is it will work. But feel free to email me, and we can go from there. I'll put my email address at the top as well of the doc.
Perfect. And of course, the last final question: what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Well, I know the reference, and I know what happens when you answer the reference. So I'll just leave that there. That's perfect. Excellent. What we'll do is we'll quickly pop over to the chat, see if there's anyone else on the chat with questions. And okay, looks like everyone has, pretty much popped their questions into the Google Doc. Great. Well, everyone, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for bearing with us during those initial first moments of different Meet streams, but it looks like we got everyone on board. This recording will also be posted to EduGeek and viewable to anyone, so please feel free to pass that on to others in your organization. Thanks again for joining. Will, any final words?
No, the piece that really resonated for me from your slides is the kind of the support request, the absolute kind of the drop down from support requests, and the ability for the IT teams to really kind of focus on other things rather than Patch Tuesday is something that I really want to achieve in UK schools. That's a bit that really resonates with me.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We'll post the link to the meeting on EduGeek, and if you have any questions, feel free to follow up there or follow up with Will or myself. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to everyone soon.